So when I was about 12, I started to cycle with my dad at the time. And in 2013, we entered the Argus, or the Cape Town Cycle Tour as it's known now. And then 10 years later, in 2023, I picked it up again. I bought an old Orbea off Facebook Marketplace and began to fall in love with cycling once again. And then in 2025, that kind of all changed and I really started to take it seriously. I rode my most consistently throughout the year. In those span of 2 years of actually consistently cycling, I've learned a couple things. And I thought I would share them with you, and I'm going to separate this into two categories. It's going to be what I learned on the bike and then what I learned off the bike. Hi, I know, sidetrack from the video. If you're new here, my name is Luke. I'm a 25-year-old videographer and cyclist living in the beautiful Cape Town, South Africa. And welcome to the channel. I document my life using cameras and bikes. So if you're into that, hit the subscribe button and enjoy the video. Anyways, so what I've learned on the bike, probably the most important part is time in the saddle. I think it's overlooked a lot because like with cycling, it requires just a lot of time on the bike for not necessarily fast rides or quick rides, but just long rides. The more time in the saddle, the faster you can be, the better you can be, and the fitter you'll be. And then I'd say the next piece is that stats are a tricky one in cycling and in any sport, but you need to be aware that at the start the stats are going to be bad and they're going to be very bad. So when you compare it to some of the people either online or in your community that have been doing it for 10 years, you can't expect to be anywhere near that. This fog is like, gets worse and then it gets better. Right now it's pretty bad. But at least it's not too cold, because it brings me on to my next point. Weather matters. It really does. Like with all sports as well, but specifically with cycling and safety. For me, this is the wettest I'll ever ride in. That's just personal preference. The cold you can get away with because you're working, but the wet, you need to be careful with the wet. And then wind. Personally, I hate wind. I know I live in Cape Town, one of the windiest cities in the world, but damn, do I hate it. It just makes me angry when I'm riding. But today, there's just a light breeze, so it's not too bad. Now that I've just started to climb, fueling is so important. I played sport as a kid, but never really thought about fueling your body like fueling a car in a sense. But you can't expect yourself to do well, climb well, or cycle for longer without the right fuel. Your body needs it. We are slowly climbing out of this fog. Looks promising. Okay, we just made it to the top. And as I said, we've made it out of the fog. It's actually much warmer up here. Although I just bought a new bike, I think when you're starting out, it's a really good idea to go with a slightly cheaper bike for a couple of reasons. One is that you don't really know what kind of riding you want to do. You might want to do gravel, you might want to do mountain, at some point you might want to do road. So I think starting with a cheaper secondhand bike doesn't set you up for failure, in the sense of like, if you don't like the style of riding, you can switch and it doesn't take and cost you too much. And as we all know, cycling does take a decent bit of time. So I think finding your times that work for you and that you enjoy, do them and stick to them. I prefer riding in the morning, and even though most of my life I hated waking up early in the morning, to be honest, I partially still do. I was meant to get up at 6:15 this morning and I ended up pushing it back an hour. I'm glad I did because of the weather, but that goes to show that even though I find my times and I like riding in the morning, I still don't necessarily like waking up early. And then I think bike fit matters so much more than you think. It just helps you get an understanding of how your body works on a bike. If you get to know where you fit well on the bike
and how to sit on the bike in certain scenarios, specifically in climbing. I think it'll aid you in being faster and being more fun in general. But all right, that's enough chat for now. Let's go have some coffee. Check this. Back at the clubhouse today. No pastries though, so sad day. Sad day.
And then like
Since we're at the clubhouse, I think it's only fair to say that you need to ride with stronger people. And riding with stronger people isn't necessarily always fun because most of the time they're going to drop you. But I think riding with stronger people is one of the fastest ways to get better on the bike and to get fitter on the bike. If you are in Cape Town, the OCS Clubhouse guys, some really nice guys, and really strong riders too. So if you're ever in the city, ride here. It's on Thursday mornings when the weather is good, and they're much faster than me. So I try to do it every now and then just to see where I am, but I'm not on their level yet completely. And then also with this bike now, after this ride, I'm gonna have to wash it. So I think that also brings me on to my final on the bike point, is that learn the basics of bike maintenance, especially in winter. When it comes to washing tires, brakes, it's good to know to be able to fix small things here and there, and also to be able to wash your bike correctly, because as you've seen, that bike is absolutely dirty. You can mess a bike up quite badly when it's expensive and you wash it incorrectly. I've got a slow puncture in my front tire. Not ideal at all. Maybe it is time to switch to tubeless. Anyways, back home we go.
All right, so we are back home right now. My ride this morning actually ended up being a bit of a nightmare towards the end. As you saw, I got one puncture, but I ended up getting two. Don't know what happened there, but anyways, I think tubeless is on the cards a lot sooner than I expected. So in terms of off the bike, I've learned a couple things. So you need to try and stay away from early purchases. I've made this mistake. The gravel bike I bought, I potentially could have bought a road bike. I did have an inkling feeling when I bought the gravel bike, I was like, I might regret this, but you never really know. So I ended up doing it anyways. And I ended up not regretting it, but still ended up purchasing a better road bike down the line. But it is what it is. So don't commit to early purchases. Think about them, sit on them and wait. And then that kind of leads well into the second point, and is that this sport is expensive. There's no way around it. It can be more affordable. You don't have to buy the most expensive stuff. You don't have to buy the brand name things. But if you want things to last, if you want them to be comfortable and you want them to work without letting you down, you're going to have to spend money. So when it comes to purchasing, rather spend the money once off. If that means waiting 2-3 months to buy the better version of the thing you would have bought, do that. Wait, buy the right things, and you won't regret it down the line. It's better to purchase one thing than to purchase the same thing 2 or 3 times within a year, because it either breaks, it's uncomfortable, or doesn't work. And then that brings me on to my next point, and that is proper kit matters. There is, however, a diminishing rate of returns when it comes to cycling kit. There's kind of a middle ground. The cheapest stuff on the one end is not going to work. It's going to work for a little bit, but very quickly it's going to break and it's going to be uncomfortable. And on the other end, the high end stuff is going to be extremely expensive, but tick all the boxes. So there is kind of this like middle ground area where you have more affordable but still expensive. When it came to purchasing things and purchasing either gear, kits, shoes or bikes, I try to make a checklist of the things I want and things I deem most important, and then go off those checklists. There are so many things when it comes to cycling. There's gear, and I'll make a whole nother video about gear at some point, but putting a checklist and sticking to that checklist made sure that I was making the right calls when it came to purchasing and buying things that are actually needed. And then when it comes to sleep, me personally, I have always taken my sleep pretty seriously. If you know me personally, you'll know this. A consistent, healthy sleep schedule will do wonders for you on the bike. Not only on the bike, but in your life. So if you are struggling to struggle to sleep, there's so many different ways you can amend it. And I can't necessarily tell you what's going to work, but I can almost guarantee you, if you stick to a sleep schedule for a week or 2 weeks or even a month, you will notice a difference. It's not a if or but, it is a definite. And then the last but pretty important tip that I've learned off the bike is stretch. I still don't do it enough. I didn't do it this morning, but stretch for 5 minutes before a ride and after a ride if you can. It really just helps warm your legs up, and it prevents longer term injuries. So that brings me to my conclusion, and that is that you know nothing. You are constantly learning new things and new ways of doing things. And this sport, man, you will meet people and you will go places you never even thought of going, whether that's actual locations or heart rate zones or pain caves or whatever you want to call it. But I truly believe that this sport will change your life, and you'll probably start to change and morph your life around being on the bike. I mean, I do it. I drink less now at the moment because I just want to be on the bike as much. And I know if I have a couple drinks on a Friday night, the chances of me getting up on Saturday morning are a lot less. I mean, they're not zero. I definitely do it still. And as we all know, as cyclists and as non-cyclists, there's this stigma around cycling and being in Lycra and being on a bike on a road. And I think if there's anyone out there that doesn't like cyclists from like a stigma point of view, get on a bike for one ride and I almost guarantee your opinion will change. So stop fucking about and just buy the damn bike. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.